Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Ky Mckeon, joined by the rest of the three-man weave crew, Jim Roos and Matt Cox. Every Monday morning, we'll be dropping a new BBOC episode talking all things betting in the world of college hoops. Today's episode, we're going to discuss some key games of the week on this pre-Christmas, pre-holiday week, both the power and the mid-major level. Going to give you some early takes before the spreads come out using Ken Palm's projected lines. Before we dive in, though, let's kick it to Stuckey for a quick message from our sponsor, DraftKings.
The Big Bets on Campus podcast is sponsored by DraftKings, and in partnership with DraftKings, our listeners get a great offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports and still have the shot to win cash prizes. To get started, use promo code BBOC when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BBOC when signing up and bet $5 to get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours.
All right, thank you, Stuckey. Let's get into it, fellas. As we usually do, big games, mid-major games. We're talking live dogs, favorites, spots, trash section, and of course our spotlight section at the end of the show. Going to give some ATS highlights. Who's good, who's bad. But first, big games. Not a ton of big games, Jim, but we have to start with our alma mater, our Missouri Tigers, taking on Illinois in the bragging rights game. Fun fact, Illinois is 35-20 against Mizzou in this matchup. They've won the last two. They've won 3 of the last 4. I'm not optimistic, Jim. KenPom makes this Illinois -8. Your thoughts on this game?
I fear the outcome, Ky, as a Mizzou grad. I don't know how the Mizzou defense holds up. I think we've seen some real flaws in the Missouri defense when they've actually played real competition. They let Notre Dame shoot 65% inside the arc. They let Kansas dominate the offensive glass. It's just not a team that's ready to deal with power conference physicality, power conference athleticism. Illinois, not a team that's overflowing with athleticism, Matt, but they have skill. They have a ton of size in their front court. They can really space you out because both their centers can knock down threes. And Mizzou just doesn't have a defensive identity right now. They're figuring out what their lineup should be. They're figuring out, should they play man-to-man? Should they play zone? They just haven't been tested enough to really know who they are. You're playing a lot of these Q4 games at home, and you just don't learn that much about yourself when you repeatedly go with those. And yeah, definitely not impressive in the 2 up games against Notre Dame, against Kansas. I think this is not going to go well, Matthew. I like Illinois here. I think they control the game and end up winning by double digits. The one thing I would also throw in, 5 straight meetings between these two have gone over the total. I think that makes sense to me, knowing what I know about the way both of these teams play, the skill in the court, the lack of defensive identity for the Tigers. I definitely lean towards the over, Matthew, and I think Illinois ends up winning by 11 or 12.
I do too. It's funny, this game is at the Enterprise Center, which is where Arch Madness is played, and that's a notorious under establishment. But this game has always, you're right, it just feels like there's a lot of juice in the building, and then teams just start, I think the pace usually plays up pretty fast. I like Mizzou. I think we talked about this game earlier this week. Thought more about it. I'm kind of starting to come to your guys' side of the ledger here. I just don't know what Mizzou. Yeah, defensively, Mizzou just still doesn't quite have. They have so much length. They just haven't figured out how to use it. And then another note, Kyle. One of many games where I think both teams are off like pretty big breaks. So yeah, rust versus rest will be the battle for a lot of matchups here.
Well, because Mizzou's strength of schedule right now per KenPom 361st right now, they need this win. It's their last chance for a quality win before the tournament, before conference play starts. Excuse me. I just don't think they can get it. Their stats right now, ball screen defense, rim defense, is actually very good. But again, it is skewed by playing bad teams. I don't trust that's real. Jim and I are very familiar with how bad Mizzou is on the glass under Dennis Gates historically. So their current top 60 defensive rebounding rate, I think, is a bit of a mirage. I lean the Illini as well. Okay, and the other big game this week in the Big East, Villanova goes to Seton Hall for a conference matchup. The Pirates -1 per KenPom. Matthew looking to start 2-0 in the Big East and continue an unlikely NCAA tournament bid. Villanova off an impressive win over Wisconsin in the Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee. Your thoughts on this one? Does Hall keep rolling? Does Nova keep rolling? 2 teams actually playing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, Nova, I think, is better than we thought they would be. The Wisconsin game, I'm still not sure if I just think that's a Wisconsin is just bad, and maybe Villanova still isn't as good as we think they are. But yeah, The BYU game was good. I think their guards have just been better than we thought. I still like Seton Hall in this game, though. The question is, what's the price going to be? I don't know if I like laying anything more than like 4 with the Hall, but I think that's my
Oh,
instinctual lean here.
think it'll get
I
up
think
that
it's
high?
high. I think it could be 3. No?
Oh, maybe. People, yeah,
We'll see.
market tends
Ken
to
Palm
favor home
has it at,
teams. -1 Hall. Yeah.
I think it's going to be -2, -3.
Would you lay it? Would you lay
I
minus two,
would
minus
I would
three?
lay up to
So
2. I would
4.
lay more than 2.
Okay. Yeah. I
No
mean,
more than
I'm
2.
very in on the Seton Hall team. The way Shaheen Holloway put them together, he built from the inside out. Let me get a ton of shot blocking, length, athleticism, physicality, and figure out the rest. And it's basically been Bud Clark figuring out the offense, but he's been brilliant on the ball. Just kind of gets to his spots, has great like mid-range step back, fadeaway type stuff that gets them big baskets when they need to. Kind of helped clinch that game at Providence. Now, Najai Hines did not play for Seton Hall last game, one of their two shot blocking menaces. And the Holloway quote about it was really weird. I'm just reading it right now. There's some stuff I'll talk to you guys about at another time. It's nothing major. Hoping he's back next week, just an illness. I'm sure he'll be fine.
Okay.
Why not just say just an illness?
Yeah,
What is that whole vagary of it's some
Baby
stuff I'll
Shaq.
talk to you about later? Yeah, I don't know. I'm a huge, huge Hines fan. I like wouldn't be shocked if he like crazily emerged up NBA draft boards because he's got decent feet, decent hands, and he's an incredible shot blocker. But if he's not there, Stephon Payne had 18 and 16 against Providence.
Wow.
Like he's
Yeah.
a freaking monster too, one of the best shot blockers in the country as well. I think the defense is going to be just fine for Seton Hall, no matter if Hines plays or not. And Villanova, they've been really solid at like competing with BYU was solid. Kind of got wiped by Michigan, but everybody gets wiped by Michigan. And then Wisconsin's just been bad. I'm not really going to celebrate that effort. They almost blew that game. I think Seton Hall gets off to the 2-0 start in league play after that road win at Providence, Ky. And yeah, I like the Pirates too. If Matt says tells me it's gonna be 2.5, I'd lay that. I don't think I'd lay over 3 though.
Yeah, I wouldn't. But you're right. The Seton Hall D, top 15 right now in Kim Pom. A lot of physicality, aggressiveness, length, but then also Bud Clark is just a demon on the ball. He steals everything. He's like the fastest guy alive out on the court.
Yeah.
He's so fun to watch.
I mean, they lead the country in steal rate and block rate.
That's impossible.
Really hard to do. Yeah.
I have been impressed with Nova, like Matt mentioned. I think they're a solid team. They're well coached, obviously, and they can shoot. And that's the key. You cannot score inside against Seton Hall. You have to shoot over the top. They can do that. I'm more inclined to lean towards Nova if it got to like +3. I think these teams are pretty even. I'd give Villanova maybe a slight edge on neutral, which I guess the spread implies. But yeah, definitely a stay away from an official bet for me. Okay, mid-major games, fellas. I have 2 highlighted here. Northern Iowa, UNI goes to St. Mary's for a meaningless tilt, it seems like. St. Mary's laying 10 here per Ken Pom. The Gales, Jim, have been a crockpot/destroyer once again this season, just bending over lesser teams. But UNI is tough. Tough travel, obviously, but they've been really solid to start this year. Very experienced team. Top 10 continuity from last year, roster-wise. How do you see this game unfolding?
Yeah, St. Mary's has been really good against good mid-majors. Like they
Yeah.
flew St. Thomas out there to start the year, Chattanooga, Ohio, North Texas, Arkansas State, and really controlled the game against all those teams. Randy Bennett does a really good job of scheduling these days, finding the quality mid-majors. He's not bringing in your bottom 50 teams in the net and winning by 50. He's bringing in, teams 150th, 200th and pounding them. Matt, I definitely lean towards the Gales at home here. Just I don't want to go to bat for a team that's taking a one-off trip to California before Christmas. Like that just feels like a real odd spot for Northern Iowa. Been a little bit banged up. Max Weisbrod's missed a couple games. RJ Taylor's been out.
Yeah.
Not like their key pieces. Those guys aren't any among their like 4 or 5 best players, but the depth is hurt a little bit, and it's the kind of game that could snowball if it's not going that well. They're getting kind of out physicaled. You just can see the why are we here type factor. I know you celebrated a big St. Mary's non-cover on Friday night, Matthew. You were excited about FAU hanging in by about a half point.
76 possessions. How about that? Like FAU really like committed to trying to speed them up, and St. Mary's still scored. It's just at the rim, they're just so big, and there's no recourse for the Owls there.
Yeah. Matthew and I were hanging out in person on Friday, and he was excited about that, clinging to a victory there. But yeah, Matt, I lean towards the Gales here. 10 per Ken Pom, very low total, sub 130 Ken Pom projected because of the way these two teams play with pace and the defense on both sides. But I still think St. Mary's can crockpot a team that's in a really bad travel spot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you argue that there's 2 extra days of rest for The Gales, because just played on Friday, but I don't know. I think it's generally, as you said, the spot is better for St. Mary's here. And then Mikey Lewis, his injury, I know he's nursing as a shoulder or a foot. He played well against FAU, but I wouldn't think he's going to be at 100%. Or I'm not saying he's going to rest or Bennett's going to rest him, but just something to keep an eye on because obviously he's a pretty huge part of that perimeter shot making. So yeah, slightly into the Gales, Ky, but nothing strong.
Yeah, I'd lean towards the under if I had to pick one thing. I think it is a defensive battle. I think the pace is super slow. I think both teams are great on defense. So lean under there. Side, I suppose, towards the Gales. But man, Jim mentioned low total. It's tough to cover margin with a low total. All the Gales have proven they can do it over and over again, not just this season, but in past seasons. Okay, one more game here in the mid-major section. FAU, the team that Matt rooted for over the weekend. They're heading to UCF. Obviously not as far of a travel to St. Mary's. They're going to Orlando, hop, skip, and a jump. UCF, Matthew, sneaky 10-1, top 50 in KenPom, has some tournament hopes till they fall back down, most likely back to earth in Big 12 play. Your thoughts on this game? Minus 11 in favor of UCF per KenPom.
It does feel big. It's one of those where I think it's going to be such a high possession game. KenPom has 70 possessions. I feel like that's discounting the pace to some degree, but obviously both teams are more efficient on the offensive end. The glass is where I have concerns for FAU. Jacobs was really worried about that against St. Mary's, and that was, I think came to fruition. I mean, UCF is just, probably even better. Not as tall and big, but just probably more athletic. Obviously, what Stillwell does on the glass is, second to none. And that's, I think, my concern for the Owls. I just don't think they have any sort of real resistance from a rebounding perspective. Maybe they make some shots to keep it close, but I think this number is going to play to a lower number because of the pace, as we've seen some of these kind of high total -9, -10, -11 feels high, but it's really just not that high in a possession game that's high 70s.
Yeah, I think this is a terrible spot for FAU coming back across the country from being in California. We've seen
Right
that
before
like
Christmas,
really long west to east travel, even if you're coming home rather than, just like a west team coming east. I think that really gives teams problems. So you come back, you play kind of an up-tempo team in UCF. FAU has not played a team in the top 140 of possession length on offense. Like they don't play anybody that gets up and down. Played one team in the top 190. And now they're playing UCF, who's 25th. I think this is going to be kind of a weird awakening for them. And as Matt mentioned, I think that 70 possession projection is crazy low. They're still KenPom still got it at 163, like high total because of efficiency. But I think this is going to be like 75 possessions, which gives me some value on the over, Ky. I will be betting the over and lean hard to UCF because of that spot with FAU coming all the way back across the country.
Yeah, Matt mentioned the St. Mary's glass. 42% of their misses, the Gales grabbed against FAU. UCF, the number 2 offensive rebounding team in the country. They can definitely do that. I must mention regression, fellas. I have to do it. UCF, top 10 three-point percentage right now. Gales, outside the top 300 in three-point percentage allowed. Does it all come crashing back down to the mean in this game? Who knows? I would lean towards FAU normally in this game, but with the travel, comfortably staying away. Okay, fellas, we're going to our next section. Live dogs. Last week, Incarnate Word actually gave TCU a nice little run. I thought we were going to pull a live dog out of our butts. They covered, if you just bet them on the spread. Marist against Georgia Tech did not cover. Played Georgia Tech fairly close, but it was a low spread. And LIU covered against Mississippi State. So no outright wins, which is, of course, what we're hunting for in this section, but 2-1 on a cover basis. This week,
I picked both those teams were like 15 to 20 point spreads.
Yes.
Like I'm not gonna lament not getting
long shots. This week, a little smaller spreads. You guys feel free to add in your own here, but I picked out Portland going to UC Santa Barbara. My thought process here was, why not? Portland's been feisty. Wins over UC Davis, Kent State, overtime with Northern Colorado. And Santa Barbara, Matt, I mean, they have all the talent in the world, but they're not well coached, and they don't play well together. They're coming off a blowout loss against Utah Valley. They lost at Green Bay. Long Beach took them to overtime. Lehigh took them to the wire. It's just a weird team that should be much better than it is. Yeah. I can see Portland pulling this off. Your thoughts?
No, I can too, especially if Miro Little is still out, which I believe he will be. It was a ton of Marvin McGee in his absence, the I guess mid-range assassin from Bakersfield. Yeah, this Santa Barbara team we thought would be really good just doesn't look the same without Little, and they've had some. It's just not a deep roster, right? You lose Little, you lose, and then Vatanen came back last game, if I recall. Their
No, he's still
shooter.
out. He's still
He's still,
out.
yes. It's just they're lacking bodies. I'm with Kai. Portland's big too. They are long. I think their length could actually bother uh, the Gauchos.
Matt, I can't believe you didn't bring up your boy Joel Foxwell when you're talking about Portland.
I
The
know the
freshman
Aussie
guard.
stud.
Yeah, he's
It's
been
good.
awesome for them. Really saved their bacon because Riley Parker's been out, not really giving them what they need to transfer from St. Francis. So getting a great production out of the freshman there. I like this one. I think it's competitive all the way. Pasternak teams, I don't love trusting them as a favorite. It's a talented team that plays up to me.
Yes.
And I mean, they're coming back from Green Bay, probably smarting a little bit, but that is a lot of travel for them. I like this one, Kai. Probably not going to lay it or just I'm not going to take it as my official bet here, but
Mhm.
I think you picked out a decent spot.
Yeah, I'll add that as an official sprinkle and also spread play. Now, fellas, Princeton is my other one. I'm not going to take this, but I had to mention it. +10 at Temple per Ken Pump. 8-4 against the spread is Princeton, but a negative 2.5 cover margin, Jim. They're like skin of their teeth every single game. I don't really trust this team. It's not the same usual Princeton team, and Dalen Davis is still out for them. So I wanted to mention this because Temple can be erratic. They have certainly consistencies with how they get to the free throw line and how they don't turn the ball over, but I still don't all the way trust this team. So it caught my eye as a potential play, Jim. Ultimately, though, I'm sticking to Portland here.
I don't trust Temple at all.
Yeah.
That team has been so erratic the last 2 years, or last 3 years, really, with Fisher in charge, like the two worst seasons in Ken Pom history for them. Going back to 2 years ago when Heiser Miller was shaving points, and maybe that's part of why they were bad then. But they're a little banged up right now. AJ Smith, Messiah Gilliard, Gavin Griffiths all did not play last game. Didn't even travel with the team, I don't believe. So they're thin. Dalen Davis is a huge, huge absence for Princeton, though. Henderson talked about in the preseason, like we're going to be experimenting a lot in non-conference play, like trying to figure out who our best lineups are going to be. We're not really going to try to be serious until league play. That explains the 3-10 overall record. As you mentioned, they've actually covered games, but narrowly, and not a team I would bet confidently right now. Matt, the only thing they do well is defensive rebound. They're number one in the entire country. Temple taking that
Yeah.
away from them is decent, but I don't have a strong one here. I just don't trust Temple. So if you want to jump in on Princeton shorthanded, go for it. But I can't tell you to back Temple.
Yeah, actually, I almost lean Temple. I just think it's a good matchup for them. Their lack of like true interior size, I think, is where they can get exposed sometimes. And Princeton obviously is not built that way. So we'll see how the spot plays. But I think matchup wise, even with the guys they have still available, I think it's actually a good one for Temple here. And yeah, Princeton's just a team I'm not touching until the Ivy begins. Just no reason to do it.
Did you guys want to toss in any other live dogs before we get to our next section or pass into the next section?
I'm going to get a long shot, Kai, the way you
Okay.
brought in LIU and Incarnate Word last week. Alabama State on Monday night
Ooh,
is
they're
going
scrappy.
to Memphis. Yes, really scrappy SWAC team, well coached, made the NCAA tournament last year, kind of turned over the entire roster, but still the same feisty type squad under Tony Madlock. And Memphis under Penny has always been a terrible big favorite. Like they're like I think 30% or so against the spread when they're a favorite of double digits. And that's where they're going to be here. Now they're coming off 3 straight losses, but it was Louisville, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State. Game before that was Baylor. That is 4 like games we got to get up for in a row. I could see even off the triple losses, a lackadaisical, unfocused kind of Memphis, and Alabama State hangs around. So I definitely like them against the spread. I will be, I'll just say that right now. +18, I'm going to put that on the card. A little bit of money line sprinkle as a long shot too.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think they'll get it done, but I think they have enough of a chance.
Any ads for you, Matthew? Or you
How about
pass
the runners?
Okay. The Bakersfield
Hosting-
or UTSA?
No. I guess
Ah,
do they call UTSA the runners too?
yeah,
I think they-
Roadrunners. I don't know if they
Yeah,
call
but
them.
I think
yeah.
they officially call them that. I thought maybe they'll do it for UT. Anyway, yes, I like the UTSA Roadrunners hosting Seattle off of that Mondo win against Washington, and again, sort of a tough travel spot coming from West to Middle America. And I know Austin Claunch's team has been a little Jekyll and Hyde this year, but that's a team at home that can get hot, and just again, sort of a weird spot for a team that probably is not going to bring their fastball after beating Washington in Climate Pledge Arena.
Love it. Good candidate. Okay, next up, favorite favorites presented by DraftKings. Last week, UNC covered against ETSU. Hooray for us. Hooray. Duke did not cover the actual spread, which was around 33. It got close to the KenPom number of 25. They ended up winning by 24. Lipscomb played Duke close, even through like 30 minutes. It was very bizarre.
It's a bad week for Duke overall.
Yeah, wow. They talk about the collapse against Texas Tech. Holy moly. This week, fellas, we talked about Illinois. I think that's not a bad bet. Where I'm going though is Towson against Sacred Heart. I think the Pioneers at Sacred Heart are a whack-a-mole team, but if Anquan Hill is out again for them, which no one knows his status, he's their best player, big man. I think Towson rolls. The way Pat Scary ball plays, it's bully ball on the glass, and if Sacred Heart doesn't have their best big man, I think could get ugly. KenPom has it -8. And then I also threw out here, Matthew, BYU -30 per KenPom, which it won't be in real life. It'll probably be closer to 40. Eastern Washington's defense is pathetic. I mean, Utah just scored 101 on them. BYU can name its number in this game. Do you like either of those? Do you want to add one of your own? What is your favorite?
You said the Ewash one?
Yeah, BYU. Yeah,
BYU. Yeah, I'm just tired of that team.
Yeah.
And I just think that spot BYU is starting to really impress me with the way their defense is actually what's starting to impress me. And I think if you can score 100 against Ewash, right? I think that's no problem. Their defense isn't horrible. Monson's been bemoaning it. We've seen it give up 80, 90 plus to way worse offenses. So BYU comes out engaged defensively. I think they win pretty handily here at altitude. Although Ewash has proven they can go to altitude and compete. Different animal here than like Colorado or some of the other places they play well at. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on board with these, Ky. I think the BYU one's a good call. Tabansa is just at a different level right now. He's like kind of pushing Cam Boozer for National Player of the Year. I mean, it's probably not like actually right up against him at this point, but his performances of late have been outrageous. He's had some highlight reel plays. BYU has pushed its way up to 9th in KenPom. And at altitude, yeah, it's kind of a shorthanded Eastern Washington team that lost Andrew Cook before the season even started. I like that spot. The one I want to add is Georgia because of the way they play. They have been high tempo. They scored 100 like basically every time they're a big home favorite. West Georgia does not have the bodies to measure up in the inside. I can't remember exactly what the nickname that Georgia has been giving themselves, but like the Dunkin' Dogs or something like that. They
I
lead
like
the
that.
country in dunks. They lead the country in layups. Really, really physical inside with Santos Surreal. They're number 1 in the country in 2-point percentage. Like the offense is real, produces really quality shots. Now they haven't covered recently. Western Carolina won by 30, but that wasn't a cover. Tennessee Tech, they won by 19,
A billion.
42. Yeah, that was a cover. But they just score so easily and they play so fast. I think against West Georgia, that's a pretty good look.
Yeah, I like that, Jim. Man, they've been awesome. Kudos to Mike
Mike White
for
hired
figuring out.
Todd Abernathy.
Aha, there you go.
The man behind the man.
There's always a man behind the man, as they say. Jim, good spots. I will add both of the ones I mentioned, Towson and BYU. Now, BYU again, call it 35 is probably my cutoff. I feel like there's been more 40-point wins this year, guys. I don't know if Matt, you have stats on that, but it feels like it's happening more often. That's a very niche question, I know, but
I can try and query that.
You run the numbers in the background.
I mean, I just think that's everyone knows that now. Teams that want to run it up, and I think the teams that are on the other side of that just have less fight than usual. I just think like, if you're down 30, play your freshman.
Might as well be 40. Yeah.
Play your other guys, tinker. It goes both ways. Yeah.
The Georgia thing is the same as BYU. Like it's 29 at KenPom. I think it'll be 32, 33. I'm calling it 34 is my cap is where I take it up to. Yeah.
Alrighty. Spot time, fellas. Last week, Queens did not show up against Arkansas, but hey, great over. So fantastic for that. They're a horrible defensive team. Kansas City covered against Oklahoma. Little fight from the Roos finally. That's a first one. Cal Bap did not cover against Southern. Southern, tough team, man. SWAC team travels well. Cal Bap was disappointing last week. This week, Jim has a couple spots here. Hey, Washington on Monday. -17 per KenPom, a little buy low after that Seattle loss, and sell high, Jim, on the Toreros after shocking UC San Diego.
Yeah, a little crosstown victory there for Steve Lavin's boys. Kind of really, really shocking. I did not think they would be able to compete with one of the most fun mid-major teams to watch, UC San Diego. The concern with Washington is Wesley Yates got hurt against Seattle, only played 11 minutes. If he's not in there, they do lose a lot of perimeter firepower. But I still think they can kind of dominate the paint here. That's where Hannes Steinbach comes in, a double-double machine, German.
Yeah.
I think you do get a pretty motivated effort from them. San Diego actually has talent. Like that was what they did in the offseason. Like, all right, let's try this troubled project. Tyler Johnson, let's see what you've got. Tony Lane, let's see what you've got. So they could theoretically play up, but they're not that big. And I think Steinbach is going to have a field day in the paint. So I'm buying low on Washington, Matthew, with that spot.
I agree. The Avilas kid I like a lot, but he's not ready to guard Steinbeck, obviously. But he's been kind of a key difference since he's been reinserted up front. I think this spot's really good here, Jim. I do think San Diego's talent is, there's a reason they beat UC San Diego. I think they are kind of undervalued as a team in general, but in this spot, this is probably a good fade lean if you don't bet it, but then look to maybe back them as the calendar turns early January for conference play because Lavin just plays so many dudes. They're almost so hard to scout because they're unpredictable with who plays each night, but they do have talent for sure.
Yeah, boy, Washington, disappointing under Sprinkle yet again. The Yates injury is pretty big. On Tuesday, we did talk about UCF FAU. We think it's a pretty good spot for the Knights with FAU coming back from St. Mary's. Jim, throwing out a little Bellarmine plus 26 maybe. And heck, it's not going to be 26. Kentucky's going to take money most likely, get to 30. Obviously, Kentucky riding high after the St. John's win. You have to think Jaden Quaintance doesn't play a whole lot. Also, he's a game changer. That guy just freaking rocks. I have to shout out on Bellarmine. Jack Karasinski rocks. He is a good player. He's averaging 21 points per game for Bellarmine. And also shout out to Brian Waddell, a former Purdue castaway, is like their second best player. So the Knights are scrappy under their new head coach, who is the old head coach's son. Doug Davenport is their coach. I just don't know if I have the balls to lay it or take the dog here.
Yeah, this is more highlighting the spot. I'm not going to actually put this on the card, but
Yeah.
Kentucky is off beating Indiana. They're off beating St. John's. Media is kind of fluffing them right now.
Oh, they're
Kai.
fluffing them. They're fluffing
People
them.
are very into Big Blue Nation right now. Quaintance is a big addition. I think Trilly Donovan tweeted because of his effort level. And that was kind of what we were criticizing with Kentucky for a little while. Like, this
Yes.
team isn't playing very hard, and he is all over the court. He's an animal. So that helps. But I do think you could get a little bit of a lull here. They've got a lot of time off after this game. Alabama starting SEC play. This could be a real dead spot for them. I think the spread's going to be closer to 35 than the 26 that it is at KenPom. So I would consider it. I would entertain it. I can't quite get there though, Matt, because Mark Pope is known to smash Q4 competition.
Yeah, and this will be probably a heavy zone game. Bellarmine, they've played, I think, at 12% of possessions per synergy, which sounds low, but I think usually you play Kentucky if you're Bellarmine, you're gonna play zone.
You gotta junk it up.
You gotta junk it up. So maybe that throws a wrench in Kentucky's flow, but I don't know. I'm with Ky. The reinsertions of Quaintance and Lowe just totally changes this Kentucky outlook.
Just for background, so Bellarmine, they lost by 45 to Georgia, lost by 26 to Kansas State. They hung with Notre Dame. So that's their power history. Kentucky, obviously a little bit better than those teams, but hey, maybe resting on their laurels a bit after that big win. Two more here. Yeah, Jim.
I just want to say, you mentioned the Georgia loss by $1 billion. That was one of only 2 ATS losses for these Bellarmine Knights. They're 7-2 against the spread.
Wow.
So it's actually been a team that's been exceeding expectations. You just have to worry about the size, athleticism chasm between them and Kentucky.
A quick double here, guys, for your interest. Matthew, Ohio State and St. John's, both coming off of CBS Sports Classic losses. They are now 21-point favorites per KenPom against St. John's is playing Harvard. Ohio State's playing Grambling. Any interest in either of those as a kind of angry spot or passing it along?
I kind of like Ohio State and sort of like the bounce back against an inferior talent team. They beat Western Michigan by 32. They beat App State by 22. They beat like solid mid-majors by 20, 30. I think that's probably a pretty good spot there to lay it. But again, you get worried about these home favorite spots before Christmas. Just, you're not
Crowd's
always
not there.
And especially Ohio State. And again, there's a video that went viral. Their game against Illinois, there's like nobody there. So yeah, I certainly will not be a full crowd at all. That's my concern. Just kind of a dead wine and cheese environment. I don't like backing that as a large favorite.
Yeah, both of these I want to get behind. I want to get excited about. St. John's is a big favorite, but Harvard can be a feisty dog. Just under Tommy Amaker, they've had talent that plays up fairly well. I thought the ATS numbers were a lot better as a big dog. Kai,
I
I'm
know
just
that's
looking
a
at it right now. Their
yeah.
last 20 games as a 15-point underdog or more, they're only 11-9 against the spread.
Yep.
I thought it was like 16-4. So not as good as I thought, but maybe enough to scare me off trying to find the angry St. John's team.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be peeved, and having a lack of a point guard isn't going to matter as much in this game, but I'm not quite going to lay it with them.
I agree with your sentiments, boys. Okay, let's go trash diving. We do have to issue an apology for last week. We recorded last week's episode on Sunday. We thought the Loyola Chicago State game was on Monday. In fact, it was the same day. It was Sunday, had not tipped off yet. Chicago State ends up beating Loyola, which is just an unfathomable result. And then Loyola turns around and beats
projected.
Santa Clara, Jim, which is just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, we handicapped the heck out of it, Kai. We
We
were right.
did.
Chicago State was going to compete the whole way and
Yeah.
ended up winning outright. We just, released that a little after the game had taken place.
Yeah, it didn't help any of you out there, so sorry. Mississippi Valley State is who we mentioned against Tarleton, though. They hung for 30 minutes. It was neck and neck at half, and then they got forked. Tarleton forked them right at the end, blew them out, unfortunately. This week, I picked Matthew Binghamton and Army, a noon Eastern tilt. Binghamton is 3-7 against the spread. They look horrible. Army 7-3 against the spread, surprisingly. Laying 7 per Kempom. Boy, I think Lilly for Binghamton eats inside. He has they have the number 2 free throw rate in the country against a team in Army that fouls a ton. I think 7's a lot to lay, but do I trust Binghamton? I don't. I just think they can cover the spread, Matt. What do you think?
Yeah. I agree with that. I had Fordham and New Haven written down for both.
Okay,
That was
that's a
one
good
of the
trash
candidate.
pick.
So, but Fordham's starting to play a little better under the Magpies, get a little healthier. Them blowing out FDU, and then Manhattan was kind of the one where I was like, oh, okay. Manhattan's not great, but certainly a more competitive team. You would have thought that would have competed in that rivalry game. So Fordham's my trash pick favorite the day before on Monday.
I'm
11
taking
a.m. start,
Fordham.
I think. Yeah.
Fordham.
Fordham of the
Fordham.
365th ranked strength of schedule in the entire country. They
Good
have,
job, Mikey Mags.
nobody. So they are familiar with
Confidence
playing a
building.
team of New Haven's quality. Yes.
Jim, I'm adding Binghamton +7 as a play there. Yeah.
You're disgusting. I don't
I'm
want to touch
gross.
either of those teams.
Icky.
You are at the very bottom of the dumpster right now, Kai. You're covered in muck.
Raccoon.
Go take a shower. You're disgusting.
Okay, that was trash section, a short section this week. Fellas, I want to end the podcast with a spotlight section this week. It's time to check in on against the spread records. I always like to do this, kind of get the lay of the land. Either it's usually like an angry thing. So if I see a team's doing really well against the spread, I'm like, why have I not been betting that team? I was high on them in the preseason, and I see the worst teams. I'm like, that checks out. I lose on that team every single game. So here are the best teams against the spread. And my question for you guys is there value on these teams going forward? Have they peaked, or is there more on the more meat left on the bone? So Sam Houston right now, best ATS team in the country, 8-0 against the spread. A 9-point cover margin is very impressive, hard to do. William & Mary, 9-1 with an 8-point cover margin. Hofstra, their CAA brethren, 9-1 against the spread, 6-point cover margin. Idaho State, been on them a few times, been loving them, 8-1 against the spread, 7-point margin. And then Tarleton, shocking. I did not know. 8-1 against the spread. The Texans, I was on the only game they did not cover, and I have been passing on them ever since. That's a poor way to handicap. I don't recommend it, but hey, it's hard to get that out of your head when the first time you lose. And then a bonus, Matthew, the best power team right now, Iowa. Ben McCollum, pretty good coach. 10-2 against the spread, 5-point cover margin. Pick out a team or two that you think there's still meat on the bone, or they've hit their value.
I think Iowa's actually sort of a very clear bimodal team against top end teams, Michigan State, Iowa State. I know they compete in that game, right? But I still feel like they're going to level off as they step up in class. Obviously we love them. I'm not going to say fade Iowa, but I think that's not, they're 19th in KenPom. I bet they finish a game or two below 500 against the spread in Big Ten play. So that was kind of my closest zag against the zag here. But I think that's kind of the one more fascinating case studies in terms of how do they play up as we get more sample size throughout the year.
I want to sell William & Mary, Kai.
Ooh.
I really like the coach. Big fan of Brian Earl. But opponents are making 26.6% of their threes. And I've been on a bunch of William & Mary overs and have been very frustrated by that because nobody makes shots in their games. I think they've been the beneficiary of some fairly good shooting good fortune so far. That probably comes back to earth a little bit. They're starting league play with Towson, not this Monday, but the following Monday. That's going to be a rude awakening punch in the teeth. They are not a good defensive rebounding team. They are 293rd in 2-point percentage defense. It's a little bit smoke and mirrors on the defensive end, and I think Towson can expose that. That's a team I would look to probably fade a little bit in league play, despite thinking Brian Earl is a fantastic coach.
And they've
I'll
gotten
just
healthier too, I believe, correct?
mm,
Pulliam came back recently, so maybe there's more upside there. But yeah, their profile on paper fits a regression-ish profile, but I do like the coach too much where I'm not gonna be selling their
I,
stock.
I kind of think Tarleton continues to be tough in whack play. They're projected 99 in Kim. I bet they beat that, especially if Dior Johnson plays. That's always a concern. It's like, can you trust Gillespie to play his actual players? He's probably the best player in that league. With apologies
Yeah.
to Dom Daniels still around at Calbap. I
Oh
can't
yeah.
remember.
Tom
But
Alley's best.
he's still probably
Yeah. Yeah.
the best player in the league.
They've
Um,
also Tarleton's also got Cam McDowell, who is like suffering from Billy
yeah,
Gillespie rotational syndrome.
insane.
He had 26 points in 26 minutes against Mississippi Valley State. He had 26 points in 10 minutes against a non-D1 team before that.
Ridiculous.
He was like getting kind of half looks from Kansas in the offseason, started off really weirdly slow. His like role is massively confusing, but he's
Yeah.
super talented too. Started his career at Georgia.
I can't believe how good Sam Houston's been. Chris Mudge lost about everybody, and they've been just hanging with every single good team on the road. They're impressive, but I have to think they're top or close to their peak value right now. Scary team to fade, though. Okay, the worst guys against the spread. How about Fairleigh Dickinson? 0-8 against the spread. Haven't covered a single game. -6 point cover margin. Jacksonville State, high five, Jim. 1-7 against the spread, but we got him on Saturday against ETSU.
Outright, baby.
Outright.
Outright.
It's a turning point.
They actually won that game too, right?
Yeah, fine. -5 cover margin for them. Texas Southern is 1-7 against the spread, -7 point cover margin. I definitely thought they'd be better under Johnny Jones this season. Ryder, yeah, 1-6-2 against the spread, -4.5 cover margin. That's one of the worst teams I've ever seen with my own two eyes, so that does not surprise me. And then Fellows Loyal, of course, 2-11 with a -10 point cover margin. I would probably say they're the worst team, even though FDU is 0-8. Longwood 2-10, and then Marquette is the worst power team right now. 2-10-1 against the spread are the Marquette Golden Eagles, -7.7 cover margin. My number cannot keep up with them, Matt. How fast they're falling. I've given up betting on them. It's disappointing. I was really, really, really wrong about this team. So out of this group, anybody rising from the ashes? Anybody we should just keep auto fading?
I think the Blurs are a buy low, and it's sort of an easy case to make because well, A, they can't possibly be any worse. B, they just beat Santa Clara, so you kind of see like, okay, there's a heartbeat there. They got Xavier Amos back, who I did not realize would be such a big part of this team, but he's been like one of the best players in 3 games. He's been back. They are, I think, second to last in opponent defense or free throw defense and 339th in opponent 3-point percentage defense. I do think their defense has serious issues, but there is some clear regression. The variance monster should be smiling on them going forward in A10 play. And as we've seen, Valentine's teams, even when he's had some rough years, they do tend to get better later because I think there's a little bit of a timing element to mastering that offense that maybe they start to kind of click coming down the stretch. I don't like Justin Moore. I've always said I just don't like him as my floor general on that team. But I think they will be a plus money A10 investment. That's my prediction for the Blurs.
Yeah, the Loyola thing makes sense, Matt, because you have like proof of concept in the last game. Like, oh, there's something there.
Yeah, it's one game, but it's something. Yeah.
They for a while they weren't trying defensively. Like they seriously were not giving any effort. Just getting like beat on cuts and drives and just layup after layup. They're forcing no turnovers. It was so easy to play against them. Kai, the curious one for me is Marquette, where like how low can this team go? They're 117th
I
in
don't know.
KenPom right now. Lost by 20 at Wisconsin, 20 at Purdue, just lost by 20 at Creighton. Snuck in a 10-point home loss to Georgetown in there. OT with Valpo before that. Like this team is
Yeah,
just not very good right now. They got Sean Jones back from injury 4 games ago, and
yeah, doesn't matter, I
they played
guess.
bad in the 4 games with him back. So I don't know what to make of this team. At some point, I'm gonna have to feel like they're a buy low, but it's a little bit like Loyola, where I want to see the one game of the team actually coming together, and then I'll start buying. I'm not going to try to catch the falling knife right now. They've got 10 days off, so perhaps that's like what
Boy.
they need to reset.
Currently 3 spots ahead of DePaul and Kimpom, but they are projected to finish behind them in Big East play because they're already 0-2. That's shocking. Last place Marquette would be truly, well, shocking. Okay, fellas, recap the plays for this week, and then we will send the good people along their way. For me, Portland +7 and a little moneyline sprinkle against UC Santa Barbara. Towson -8 against Sacred Heart. BYU -30 per KenPom, probably like 35. I'll put my cap at -36 in the market against Eastern Washington. And then Binghamton going trash diving, +7 against Army. Jim, how about you?
I'm taking the over in FAU UCF. I think that game has a lot more possessions than the 70 that's
Yeah, I
projected.
agree.
Also lean towards UCF with FAU coming all the way back across the country, but just the over there up to 165. I would take it. Alabama State +18 would take that down to like 13. I think they're going to be very competitive at Memphis. Sprinkle a little bit on the money line there. Georgia up to -34 against West Georgia. Love that style is a big favorite. And then Washington -17 in the buy low spot after losing to Seattle. Matthew.
Jim, I'm going to trail you on that over. Only 2 plays for me this week. That one and my UTSA Roadrunners, as I alluded to early. I also, coming back from that West Coast trip where they got shellacked by, good teams. I think back at home, they got pummeled by South Alabama the last time at home. I think they come out with a more inspired effort on Monday against the Redhawks. So I think +5 would be my strike. I would hope the 7 or 8 is out there, but we'll see. I think market tends to kind of shade some of these spots. So my 2 for Kyle.
Love it. Thank you, fellas, and thank you out there for joining us on Big Bets on Campus. We are back next week, most likely, with another episode. We'll see what the slate brings us post-holidays. Again, thank you to DraftKings. Good luck on your bets. Good luck in your holiday season with in-laws and family. Cheers.